Programming. The A3's main menu is accessed by pressing the Menu button. The main menu provides access to three primary submenus: Configuration, Input Setup, and Output Setup. All menu items are accessed by using the up and down arrows to highlight a selection and then pressing the Enter button to accept the highlighted selection. When numerical inputs are required, press the right arrow button to highlight the digit to be modified, and then press the up or down arrow to modify the digit. Press Enter to accept the digit. All menus must be exited by scrolling to the bottom of the menu and selecting the word Escape or Done and pressing the Enter button. The Configuration menu provides access to the display language, password, display rate, and the reset to default settings. When selecting display language, the user may select one of four display languages: English, French, Spanish, or German. When selecting Set Password, the user may enter a 4-digit password. Once set, the user must enter the password to access configuration items. The user may select one of 5 units of measure to display on the run screen: milliliters per minute, ounces per minute, liters per hour, gallons per hour, or gallons per day. This selection is in addition to the motor RPM and percentage of motor speed, which is always displayed. The user may reset all configurations back to the factory defaults. A yes or no confirmation is required. The Input Setup menu provides access to these input settings. The maximum motor RPM setting must match the installed motor's actual maximum RPM. This value is set at the factory and should not be changed unless the motor is replaced in the field with a motor with a different RPM. The max flow rate setting is measured and input at the factory using the pump tube assembly that is shipped with the new pump. If a different pump tube is field installed and high accuracy is required, the pump should be recalibrated and the new max flow rate value should be entered. To break in the new tube, run the pump at the maximum output for a few minutes before performing the calibration. Select the Input Mode menu to access and configure any of the Run Mode settings. To configure the Manual Adjust mode, use the right arrow to select one of the 3 digits to modify. Use the up or down arrow to change the selected digit. Press Enter to confirm the displayed digits. To configure the 4 to 20 milliamp input mode, input a minimum milliamp value. Input the percent motor speed at the minimum milliamp value. Input a maximum milliamp value. Input the percent motor speed at the maximum milliamp value. To configure the 0 to 10 volt DC input mode, input a minimum volts DC value. Input the percent motor speed at the minimum volts DC value. Input a maximum volts DC value. Input the percent motor speed at the maximum volts DC value. To configure the frequency input mode, input a minimum frequency value. Input the percent motor speed at the minimum frequency value. Input a maximum frequency value of up to 1000 Hz. Input the percent motor speed at the maximum frequency value. To configure the pulse input mode, input the number of pulses per batch from 1 to 9,999. The maximum frequency input is 1000 Hz. Input the percent motor speed during the batch output. Input the batch runtime in seconds. To configure the cycle adjustment mode, input the percent motor speed during the pump on time period. Input the duty on time per cycle in seconds. Input the total repeating cycle time in seconds. To configure the dispensing mode, input the volume to dispense in milliliters. Input the percent motor speed during the dispensing period. To configure the manual dosing mode, input the concentration percentage of the fluid to be dosed. Input the specific gravity of the chemical to be dosed. Input the constant fixed flow rate of the fluid to be treated in liters per minute. Input the desired parts per million concentration of the treated fluid. To configure the proportional dosing mode, input the concentration percentage of the fluid to be dosed. Input the specific gravity of the chemical to be dosed. Input the K-factor or pulses per liter of the flow meter frequency input signal. Input the desired parts per million concentration of the treated fluid. When the remote contact input is used to start and stop the pump, the user must define whether the pump is stopped during an open contact or a closed contact. The selection options are Close equals stop pump, Open equals stop pump, or Disable. This feature overrides all other operating modes, providing an effective remote override safety switch. When the optional microflow flow verification sensor is installed, the pump can monitor itself and provide an alarm output in the event the sensor fails to output a signal to the pump. The user may input an alarm delay time from 1 to 255 seconds, which will allow the pump to prime out any gases that may have accumulated in the suction tubing, preventing false alarms. The sensitivity of the tube failure detection system can be adjusted from 75 to 100% if required. The Output Setup menu provides access to the signal output, the alarm relay, and the 3-contact alarm output loop configurations. The user may select either the 4 to 20 milliamp analog signal, the 0 to 1000 Hz frequency signal, or disable the signal output. To configure the 4 to 20 milliamp analog output signal, input the percent motor speed at the minimum milliamp output value. Input a minimum milliamp output value at the minimum motor speed. Input the percent motor speed at the maximum milliamp output value. Input a maximum milliamp output value at the maximum motor speed. To configure the 0 to 1000 Hz frequency output signal, input the percent motor speed at the minimum frequency output value. Input a minimum frequency output value at the minimum motor speed. Input the percent motor speed at the maximum frequency output value. Input a maximum frequency output value at the maximum motor speed. The 10-amp alarm relay may be configured to energize when any one of the following 7 conditions are met. Either the tube failure detection system or the flow verification system has been activated. The tube failure detection system only has been activated. The flow verification system only has been activated. The pump is running or stopped. The input signal has failed. The output signal has failed. The pump's motor or electronics has failed. The alarm relay may also be disabled. Each of the three contact closure output alarms may be configured to energize when any one of the following 7 conditions are met. The pump is running or stopped. The input signal has failed. The output signal has failed. The pump's motor or electronics has failed. Activation of either the TFD, Tube Failure Detection System, or the FVS, Flow Verification System. Activation of the TFD, Tube Failure Detection System only. Activation of the FVS, Flow Verification System only. The contact closure may also be disabled.